Yo, what is up, guys? My name is Jaden, and today we are talking about Amazon dropshipping specifically, and eBay is actually really similar to this, so this kind of goes in the same. They are a little different in a couple of aspects, but not incredibly different. Amazon is a little more strict, and they take their policies a lot more seriously. eBay, I find a little more beginner-friendly, and the other difference I notice is eBay actually has a little older of an audience, and Amazon, I feel, has a little bit more of a young audience. And so what I want to talk about is how one can hit, six figures or $100,000 in revenue drop shipping on Amazon, and how this can be acquired every single month. Because I've had a couple of different stores and a couple of different students be able to hit stuff like this, and I've seen this done several times, and the tendencies are all the same, and it's really the same methods. There is different ways to drop ship and different suppliers and things, but it really all comes down to the same mindsets and the same tactics. And so the first thing for you to really be able to hit your first six figures on Amazon is obviously setting up your store and having a supplier where you run your items with profit. So what you can do is you can go to a website like Walmart.com and source their items that you can get for $6.99 and put it for $8.99, $12.99, $14.99. And another even better tactic for doing product research is find what sells on Amazon and then find out what the lowest price in the world is. So if you go to an item, what you can actually do is click on the item and it'll say like 3 new and refurbished. Click that and you can see all the sellers for the item on Amazon, and it'll show you which one's the lowest price. If you can find that item for a lower price somewhere on the internet or from a supplier, you can sell that as the lowest price, which means you're the lowest price in the world for that item. This is how I see a lot of people hitting six figures. It's people will undercut the lowest price that's currently there with a small or a decent profit margin. Sometimes when you're undercutting, it can be small profit margins, but that does make a lot more sales. Or you can promote your listings with higher profit margins. So if you don't want to undercut, if you don't want to get to 100,000 in revenue with really small margins, what you can also do is run a promotion or run a sponsor for an Amazon or eBay listing, which will make it where you rank higher than people on the search term. So if somebody searches up, water jet massage or something like that, and you pay for a promotion, you're gonna be higher up than a lot of the other people because you paid to be there. And so you can kind of set up a bigger profit margin because you're higher up, so you're more likely to sell. This is actually a tactic I use a lot more on eBay. A lot more sponsored listings I find sell on eBay because I'll make my own huge 30 or 40% profit margin on some items, and they won't sell all the time. But when they do sell, it's a 30 to 40% pure profit margin, which is really good for me, especially if I'm sponsoring it and I sponsor it at a bigger than average trending rate. So on eBay, it's a trending rate, which means it's like the average person pays 5.9%. You might want to pay 7 to 10%, so you rank above other people. And so what it kind of comes down to is two different kinds of product research. You can either undercut people, or what you can do is sponsored listings, pulling your own profit margins, putting other things at your own margins. You don't always have to sponsor them. Sometimes you'll put something up for a huge margin and you will still make the sale. It's not impossible, and you don't always have to undercut. And for you to kind of get to that point where this doesn't just do $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or 20, but you're doing $100,000 a month consistently, you do need a budget, because how are you going to fund if you're only making 20 to 30% profit or 10 to 20% profit on your store? That means you need 80% of that funding up front so you can buy these items that are selling, and then once you get paid out, you get that profit margin. And so the two ways I see people doing this is with credit lines, or having a big budget or capital right off the start. So some people will start with $80,000 in their bank account and they drop that into it, and they know with $80,000 at 20% profit margins, they'll be able to hit $100,000 a month. And it's a lot easier with credit actually than using your own capital, because that can be a little risky if you don't know what you're doing or if you just started. Because if you put $80,000 in and your account gets blocked or shut down, they might hold your funds for a short amount of time. And imagine if that was your whole bank account, $80,000, and they all of a sudden start holding your money. That would be really freaky. So what a lot of people actually started doing is utilizing credit lines. So someone will have decent credit and start applying for credit lines, and if they get up to the point where they get a credit line for $30,000 to $40,000 or even $100,000, you can utilize that credit and utilize someone else's money to create you money. So you just use the bank's money and make sure you can pay them back on time, knowing what your profit margin is, and knowing you're going to get the money back in time. But what if you don't get the money back in time? What if it's you get paid out after 2 weeks? Well, on Amazon, there's actually a service called Payability. And what Payability is it gives you the option to actually get paid out on the same day or the same next day that you made that sale. So what I mean by that is you make that sale, you get paid instantly instead of waiting, a week or two till you provide tracking and they get the item, which is typically how you get your money. It's bi-weekly things. It's, you get your payouts on Amazon here and there, but instead you can line it up where you're getting Payability to get paid out every day. So it's easier to recycle the money and you can pay the bank back and pay the credit back when you're ready. So I see a lot of people utilizing credit lines. My buddies at the drop shippers are super good at this, and a lot of people do this, but not everybody has super good credit, and it does take time to build credit, but that's a super solid idea for how you can get the funding to get up to this point. Now, the other way that people do is just manually running their accounts with just purely their money and doing the customer service and making sure they come in every day and every day out, just doing all the work and lining everything up. And really what it comes down to run an online store on Amazon or eBay that can get up to $100,000 a month is obviously having enough items for you to be able to make that many sales. Usually an $100,000 a month account can be 100 to 200 to 1,000 listings on your store. And a lot of the times, some people even have accounts with 1,000 items and half of them aren't even selling. And you don't want to leave items up on your account that aren't selling. You're just taking up space where something could be selling. So what I do to scale an account to that kind of degree is I'll go in, and when I bulk list and when I'm putting all these items up, what I'll do is I'll get all these items up that I think are winners, and I'll be able to start kind of figuring out what actually sells out of what I thought would sell. Sometimes it's never what you think will sell, but it's what you thought wouldn't sell. So I'll just put up anything I think is decent, or even sometimes the items I think might not even work well, I'll still put them up. And so by the time you have like 200 items, you're probably making at least 10 to 30 sales on a daily basis, which is awesome. But make sure you're actually monitoring your account where you're going in and looking at the items that aren't getting sales, that aren't getting views. On eBay, you can check every item that's getting and how many views, and so you can see what's not working, you can see what's not getting sales, what's not performing. And once you figure out these kind of key performance indicators, you run your business about these key performance indicators. A key performance indicator is the things that are making you money, the things that are staying consistent, the things that are getting you results. So if you know something's getting you results, maximize on it, obviously. And so when something's not getting sales and you have like 1,000 items up, remove the items that aren't getting sales and put in new items that you think are going to do well. I see a lot of people make this mistake on the start where they just put up a ton of items, but they don't optimize at all. They're not optimizing their titles. They're not trying to get sales on it. They just put things up, and if it doesn't get sales, they just leave it there. And you can optimize the descriptions, get a bunch of keywords so you rank even better, sponsor the listing. Don't just give up instantly if it doesn't sell. Try and sell it if you think it's going to do super well. I had something that I knew would do super well, but it didn't until I started sponsoring it because I was so far down in the search history. So many other people were doing it. So I sponsored it. I paid more than other people and I started making sales, but I made my profit margin wide enough where I was able to do that. And so if you see these items that aren't getting sales, just make sure you go into the account, remove them, and put in items you think will do well, because then you can slowly narrow your store down to just having pure winners. If you had 100 straight winners or 100 items that you are the lowest price in the world on, I have no doubt that you're going to be able to hit $60,000 to $100,000 every single month. It really kind of comes down to being able to find these winners. And what's cool about Amazon versus Shopify, where a lot of people are still over there, is you don't always, have to pay for advertising just to get your items seen. And you could test so many winner products all the time. Another aspect to getting your account to $100,000 a month, because it's not just about the sales. If I said that, that would be a lie, because it actually is kind of the opposite. Getting sales is just one aspect to the store and one aspect to running a successful business. But the main aspect, and the thing I see way more important than orders and sales and winners, obviously those are important and you're going to do those regardless. But the one thing that really stands above the rest is if you can go in and be able to do the customer service on a daily basis, if you have the 40 different scripts for all the different situations that are happening inside of Amazon, if you have all of the inventory management software so you can actually have items being repriced so that when items go higher up on your supplier, sometimes you'll have this problem where an item will be $9 at your supplier and you sell it for 15, but what you didn't know is the supplier's been getting so many sales, they bump it up to $15.99, and all of a sudden you're losing money on this item and you had no idea. Well, there's actually softwares in place for you to be able to have things get repriced. So if it goes up to 15, yours will bump up automatically to around 20. So there's repricers that will do this kind of thing, and there's another tool for out of stocks. And so what you can do actually is, there's a huge problem that will happen, and it's you actually sell something from like Walmart.com or whatever supplier you're using, and somebody buys it from your store, and you go to buy it, and it's out of stock with your supplier. I'm sure this has happened to some of you guys, and it is a pain. You don't want to deal with this. There's software that will actually put your items on your store out of stock when it goes out of stock with your supplier, which just makes it so much easier to manage instead of hiring somebody to do that or doing that for hours and hours a day yourself. Imagine if you took on that responsibility yourself and you just went in your store and you looked at thousands of items every day to see if they were out of stock and if they were getting priced up higher, and you had to mark them up. That would be a huge pain for you. These tasks can be automated with software, which is another huge aspect to six figures on Amazon or eBay. And the last thing, and probably the most important above all that a lot of people are forgetting, is customer service. So it's not just about the sales, it's not just about the inventory software if you're not actually satisfying customers. When people are sending you messages, you should be responding to almost every single one of your messages. Believe it or not, eBay and Amazon are very strictly watching the sellers. They see every message you send, they see everything you do, and a lot of people don't really think about that and think about how they're responding to customers. Some people even get nasty and rude with their customers instead of just solving the problem. And this is the main thing to getting to six figures. And it's satisfying customers, gaining that positive feedback, getting organic search results because you're getting so far up in the ranks, because your feedback is starting to increase so rapidly because you satisfy so many customers. And the only way to do that is to obviously get your winners, get sales. But once you do that, make sure you're not just immediately gratified and get that instant gratification out of the sale, but actually make sure you finish that customer experience, because a sale isn't just a sale, it's selling you, it's selling your product and your personality, your store, your company. When you buy a Nike, it's not just because you love how the shoe looks, but they have a beautiful brand, a beautiful box. The aesthetic of it is amazing. The store is beautiful. It smells awesome. It's the same thing with your online store. When you sell something to somebody and they ask you a question, give them a respectful and authentic answer so they know what to expect. If they have a question about the item that you don't know, go to your supplier, ask the supplier, try and find out in the description. There's things people will ask that will actually identify the sale. So somebody will ask you like, how long is this broom, or how fast does this fan spin, or how does this work? Just weird little questions. If you can't answer those, you probably won't make the sale. But I've had a lot of times where just by me sending a message, they say, hey, thanks, I just bought it. Thank you so much for that answer. Just because I provided them with what they needed to know. And I do know people actually that run six-figure stores and they don't really answer many questions, but they do their best. But they're not answering all of them. Just make sure you're really getting back to your messages, giving that customer a good experience, asking them if they need anything after the sale, giving them a very kind and nice script or just authentic message. We use a lot of scripts for situations, so if somebody doesn't leave feedback, we'll send them a really nice scripted message and kind of ask for feedback. So we have a list of around 45 different scripts, maybe even 50. I'm not totally sure because we have the eBay and the Amazon ones, and there's so many different scripts for so many different situations, returns, people that are not responding. There's so many different things you're gonna have happen, and there's scripts for all these different scenarios. So there's a couple of different aspects to getting to six figures on Amazon, and you're going to have to remember it's not just about the sales, because sales and orders and finding winning products and product research is amazing. That's the upfront of it. But then the back end is getting those automatic tasks, repricing, out of stocks with your store to supplier. And then finally, making sure you are prioritizing the customer, because a lot of people see this as, how can I hit six figures? But the real mindset should be, how can I satisfy customers? How can I solve problems? Because if you do that, you won't ever have to worry about getting paid. But that is the entirety of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you learned something, because there's so many people now hitting six figures on Amazon and eBay, and it's just seeming like it's becoming such a big thing for people. And a lot of people are moving from Shopify to Amazon and eBay, and there's so many people that want to learn. I actually do have a website where I teach people how to do these, how to get the software, how you get those scripts. And so if you're curious about getting started with something like that, the link will be in the description. But anyway, I absolutely love you guys. guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.